Hi, this is Donovan with Dreamtsoft, and this video is going to cover schema tags, what they are, and how to use them. So, schema tags are essentially groupings of fields or slots that you can inject into a record. If I go to my gears, my bundle configuration, and into bucket management, I have a schema menu, and you can see all the out-of-the-box schemas we provide. So if I scroll down to the user schema, you can see these are the user fields that are inherited or injected into a person record when that schema tag is added. Now there's three types of schema tags. There are optional, as a trait, or always. And I'll show you examples of each of those, or at least discuss them. So this user schema is set as a trait. And what that is, it's a first class schema that you can add to a record or inject into a record with manual intervention. So in order to show this, we could head over to the people or the person table, and we can find some user here that, like Andra. So Andra is a person who also has her sales contact schema turned on, and she is a champion. So this may be someone in the CRM that you talked to, and this was your champion in there, and you sold a deal. But now Andra needs to become a user in the system, and you can do that by toggling the user schema tag. Now, before I do that, I can hit Option J on this record, and I can scroll to the bottom. And for those of you who don't know, Option J is actually an administrative capability that allows you to see the kind of database of the record. Now, we use a Postgres database in JSON binary or JSON B mode, which basically is every record is an object. It's like a JSON object, or it's almost like NoSQL. So that allows us to inject properties into this object, different than if we had to go do a database alter and add a column. So it adds a ton of flexibility to the data model. But if I scroll to the bottom, there is no user ID in here because I haven't toggled and saved that user schema. So I'll cancel out of here. I'll toggle this. We'll put in a user ID. And as I save this record, now I can hit Option J, scroll to the bottom, and you can see all of these fields that are now available to me. So this becomes extremely valuable when you have foundational records like a person, and they may evolve into different roles, like a sales contact or a user, or maybe even something like an employee where you now want to add an employee ID. But at their core, they are all people with first name, last name, emails, etc. So that is how you can use traits, schemas as traits, to be able to add them to the form and then have this toggle capability. The second way is a more programmatic way of adding it, and you can do that either in script through a trigger or a button. And we have some examples of that in our IT service management application. And if I go to the button and go to the schemas, you can see that we also use these for integrations. So I'll just click on this N-Central device. So N-Central is a system, a monitoring system that SolarWinds makes, and we were integrating that to our CMDB. And in order to kind of bond those devices or CIs in our CMDB, we needed to have certain fields that N-Central was sending back. Things like the device ID, the last loaded time, and then the URL that N-Central was sending back so you could open it up in an external system. So this makes integrations a lot more flexible because you don't have to build those fields ahead of time, which say, this is my correlation ID, or you don't have to build out 50 different fields because of the 50 different things that you might be integrating with. You can build them in schemas and turn them on or off depending if that device is actually bonded or integrated with SolarWinds or N-Central. So very easy example to do that is if I had an external system, let's just say Jira, and I wanted to create a Jira schema. So I could come in here and just call my schema Jira, point it to my incident bucket because I want to e-bond that with incident. Now, once again, this is going to be added programmatically through an integration, so I'm going to keep it optionally. But if I wanted to make it a trait and I wanted to manually enter that data, I guess I could go through and toggle that switch. But we'll keep this optionally for now. And we'll just call this Jira ID as my kind of correlation ID. Have one slot in there. I could bring more data back like the project, but we'll just stick with that for now. Now I'm going to save that. Now I have my schema, but how do I add it? Well, normally you would do it through some sort of integration if it was a trigger, an import, or even something simple like a button. So I'm going to go create a button on my incident table. It's called a browser action in our system. We'll just say Jira as an example, put it to the incident bucket. And one key element here is, even though that schema didn't exist, now that I've created it, it's available to me anywhere this condition builder is. So if I wanted to dictate when that button is visible, I can go look at the schemas themselves and say, does this have the schema already inherited? Is that tag on there? Or if you scroll down towards the bottom, you can see that all of the schema fields are also available to me. Any schemas that have a parent of incident, I'm able to go check and look for a specific value in order to have this button be visible. So once that schema is created and parented, it's available for you to use in all of your workflow. But I'm going to take this away, and I'm just going to go through, we'll just call this Jira real quick. I'll put an icon on here, bug, and I'm going to add just do a quick run script. This is how you add a schema programmatically. You just add schema ID, and I called it Jira, so I'll just put that in there, and I'm updating the record. So now I'm just going to connect these dots. Now, obviously, there would be more to this. I would reach out to the REST API and be pulling back, the response and inserting that. But that add schema ID is the way that you can add the schema programmatically. So I'll go through, head over to my incident. I've got my little Jira bug here, but just to show you like a magician, there's nothing sneaky going on here. I don't have that Jira ID listed on this record. So I hit OK. I click the little bug. I hit Option J again. And I forgot to refresh this record. So I can actually build that into my workflow as a refresh. But I'll hit Option J here, and now I have the Jira ID that's available for me to populate. So that is the second way that you can use schemas. And like I said, it's very handy in integrations because you don't have to use one field for all of your correlation IDs. And you can integrate one record with multiple external systems just by adding multiple schemas to it and have your logic look for those specific fields in there that are unique to that tool. The third way is, if you look at schema, is always. So this is more of a static way to extend a table in the system. And a lot of people might say, well, why don't you just add them directly to the table? Well, if you, let's say, had a certain flavor of incident management that you wanted to build in a custom application that someone could download or someone install, you could take our service management as a baseline and build your own custom app as an add-on, and then have your schemas be always. So no longer are you going in and configuring our ITSM or our service management application. You can build a layer on top as a custom app, and then you can come in here and create schema that would be add-ons. So if you have a specific industry that requires specific fields, whether it's healthcare or biotech, you could build out a custom app add-on to our ITSM, and really it could just contain some workflow and schema that our standard service management records or incidents or problems or changes don't have. So those are the three ways that you can use schema tags. Of course, you can use them as a trait, which has that manual toggle. You can use them optionally, which is more programmatically, where you can put them in a trigger or a button, or you can use them always if you were kind of extending or adding on to something that already exists, but you wanted to build a custom app. So like I said, there's a ton of examples in the system. Go ahead and take a look. If you have any questions, please shoot us an email. And we really hope you can also find some new ways of using schema tags, because it is a pretty innovative way to build out your data model. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day.